The second weekend of the 2025 SEC baseball season is officially upon us. Welcome to the Windup, SEC Unfiltered's bi-weekly college baseball show. I am Chris Phillips. He is Harrison Fant. We are breaking down all things SEC baseball heading into another jam-packed non-conference weekend. Guys, of course, as always, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast, wherever you get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms, as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. And as always, we're brought to you by our friends over at FANDUEL. Visit FANDUEL.com/SECU to join today and get started with $150 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Once again, that's FANDUEL.com/SECU to get $150 in bonus bets today. The second weekend of the season is officially upon us, and the first midweek slate of the season, by the way, is also in the books. We're going to talk about all that, break it all down. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to your favorite college baseball podcast. This is the Windup, SEC Unfiltered bi-weekly college baseball show, where we talk all things SEC baseball, college baseball, and everything in between. I am Chris Phillips, my co-host. Joining me once again, my partner in crime, Harrison Fant. Harrison, what's going on, man? Appreciate you taking the time. We got a lot to dive into. Really excited. Again, it's been an exciting first week of the season, and it's only going to continue to heat up, my man. Excited to break it all down with you.
Yeah, Chris, glad to be here again. Obviously, we'll be here twice a week, every week until we're back in Omaha. So I'm excited to do it. And, midweeks matter. They mattered this week, Chris. We're making them matter all year. And we got midweek madness in week one. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, we're going to start there, Harrison, breaking down and just talking about what happened in the midweek, because some notable results, and yours truly went viral unexpectedly. Thank you to Brian Curley and thank you to Georgia baseball that created a viral moment that I didn't expect. By now, you've probably seen it, or at minimum, you know what happened. But Georgia, Kennesaw State, again, we had a lot of fun ones. We're going to hit some of the highlights here. But the Georgia, Kennesaw State game, Harrison, I don't know that was one that when you and I talked about the midweek slate back on Monday, that was the top of the radar. I think you and I maybe briefly mentioned that, and you're from the state of Georgia. You live in the state of Georgia, so you're familiar with Kennesaw. But the chippiness of that ball game was about as unexpected as anything else we saw in the midweek. I mean, we had pimped home runs. We had jawing back and forth. We had Wes Johnson get ejected. And then we get to the end of the game, Harrison. Brian Curley, the closer for Georgia, the reliever who throws 100 freaking miles an hour, has a pause in his delivery, if you will, which is a conversation for another day, by the way, has the pause in his delivery. Guy's got ridiculous stuff. He comes in, end of game again. We've all seen the clip at this point. And here's the funny thing. So I posted the clip of this, right, and kind of gave some of my commentary, and this thing went crazy. It's over, I think, like 2 million views on Twitter. Multiple baseball Instagram accounts. John Boy posted it, reposted it, if you will. My voice is all over baseball social media, it seems. But I'm really just sitting there watching the game, Harrison. I'm on the phone with a buddy of mine, and I have the game on because it was a dramatic game. It came down to the wire. And so I saw this happen live. And I'm talking to my buddy. I'm like, did you see what the Georgia pitchers just did? I'm like, am I taking crazy pills? So I was able to go back and rewind it and saw it again. And I was like, dude, I've got – at first I was just going to show my buddy. And then I was like, I got to post this. Just kind of thinking nothing of it, really. Like I thought it would do pretty well on social media. But, I mean, what's happened since?
Oh, it did well.
It's just been pure madness. But the reason it's been pure madness, Harrison, the Curly thing, the flicking the tongue at the guy on second, and then breaking off a hammer. Just a hammer to close out the game. Throws his glove. They're celebrating this win over Kennesaw. The 8th-ranked Georgia Bulldogs, by the way, celebrating this 2-run win over Kennesaw State. I'm curious your thoughts on fair or foul, Bush League, or do you like it? Like what's your stance on the Curly thing? Was he doing a little much? Do you like the emotion? Because I kind of see both sides of it. I'll give my take in a second, but I'm curious your thoughts on what you saw from Curly.
Yeah, Chris, it instantly, and I sent it to you, it instantly reminded me of the Luke Smith Louisville game in the College World Series against Vanderbilt. It immediately reminded me of that. Went and looked it up and sent it to the rest of the SECU crew. And I was like, this is what it reminded me of. Completely different situation. First off, you're playing in the College World Series. He was dominating dominating Vanderbilt's lineup, right? He went 10 Ks and 8 innings, but then this was just such a different situation for me because it seemed more, I guess, just off-putting in, pre-pitch, not post-pitch. It just felt so out of character. I'm not a fan of it, not my cup of tea, but I don't hate it. Like, I'm not going to promote it or anything, but if you're going to do that, like, let's say the guy hits a home run off and he pimps it, absolutely worth pimping it if you do that. But
you got to wear it. You got to wear it if you're Curley. Yeah, you got to wear it.
I'm all for both sides of Chris. But then think about it. Yeah. He strikes him out the hammer in the game, which is crazy to do on that last pitch in the game, right? With 2 runners on. And then he throws his glove off, looks at the dugout, and just goes, yeah. He just was like, I'm the man. I'm like, I don't know. It was a little much for me. But Chris, Georgia Bulldogs, the number 8 team in the country, you're playing Kennesaw State. Little brother down the street in this greater metro Atlanta. It was chippy because a lot of those Kennesaw State kids, I bet, would love to have been recruited and played at Georgia. And they want to go say, hey, I'm going to beat the team that would never recruit me. 100%. I mean, that's how a lot of it is, these in-state rivalries, midweek especially. They want to throw their guys. They want to go beat Georgia. Why not?
And they almost did. And they almost did.
They were 4-0 early. But, yeah. I mean, you want to tell me midweeks don't matter? I know you don't think that, but Wes Johnson, they matter. I mean, he's got thrown out of a midweek. If that doesn't say that midweeks matter, I don't know what does.
Brian Curley showed they mattered. I mean, which I mentioned in the clip. How are you going to tell me midweeks don't matter? Yeah, so I'll say this. I'm torn because I love it, but it is Bush League. I love the emotion, and I mean, I love it selfishly from the content perspective because, again, when I saw it happen and record it and post it, I was like, yeah, this is probably going to do some numbers, and again, the rest is history. But I guess I've got to pick a stance. I'll just say this. Do whatever you want on a baseball field because I don't have to necessarily hold you accountable. Harrison, the baseball gods will hold you accountable.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to come back around. And I'm not saying that from the standpoint of he's going to have a terrible year, but the baseball gods just don't forget, and you don't ever want to tempt fate with the baseball gods. And so I would almost guarantee you there's going to come a moment. He probably knows this. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. There's going to come a moment where Curley gives up like a 500-foot home run and somebody's going to stick their tongue out at him. That moment's not going away. That moment's not going away. So, again, I love the energy. I love the emotion. On the other hand, though, it's dude, you are the 8th-ranked Georgia Bulldogs. Yep. I know you had to go to Kennesaw State, whatever, and I know that they've been chirping, but, you're the 8th-ranked Georgia Bulldogs, and you're celebrating like you just won the regional. I mean, let's kind of, it was a little much. It was a little much for me. I'll say that. If it was just the tongue thing to the guy at second, you K him up and you just walk off like a badass, been there, done that. We were supposed to win, so be it. It was the rest of it that it was all right. I mean,
look what I just did. Okay, you
come on, man. But to your point, Harrison, again, I stay torn on it because I'm if we're going to allow guys to pimp home runs and bat flip, then it's yeah, I mean, listen, if you're going to stick your tongue out at a guy, you better be able to throw 100. And, well, guess what? Brian Curley throws 100. He's got a hammer. So, but for me as a baseball guy, yeah, that was a little much. That was a little much. If I'm taking away the fun of the content and kind of from the baseball perspective, if I'm in one of those dugouts or I'm one of those coaches, it was much. If I'm Wes Johnson, I'm like, hey, that went viral and was funny. Don't do that shit again. Never do that again. So, anyways, again, outside of that, Harrison, we had an entertaining midweek slate. Again, a lot of teams took care of business. Also, the weather was a dominant headline in the midweek because the weather is pretty much terrible everywhere. And I tell you what, when I catch that groundhog that gave us 6 more weeks of winter, it's on site. I'm going to beat his ass because I'm about sick and tired of the weather, the cold weather. Dude, games are getting canceled because of cold weather and snow. And I mean, did you see the video? I mean, you sent it to me, the video of Lindsey Nelson. I don't know how they're going to play baseball.
Yeah, that's my butter, Connor Pack.
We'll get to that in a second. I don't know how they're going to play baseball there. And even if you're getting to play baseball, it's miserable. It's
said, hey, BP, 30 minutes, get hot.
I mean, yeah, there's snow on the ground there. You can't even see the field. But again, we had some great games that played out. The one loss, Harrison, we got to highlight this. SEC suffered a loss. Mississippi State falling to Southern Miss. And Southern Miss, they just shoved it up their ass, man. Their pitching
Southern Miss is a very consistently good mid-major. I mean, we talk about
really good program. Good program.
I mean, we talked about it how, they're a staple mid-major program that, goes to regionals every year. They're always in the postseason. They're hosting regionals from time to time. I mean, the Pete gets jumping, Chris. I would tell you that. I've been there firsthand for an Ole Miss game. It's a midweek game, and it got jumping 3 years ago now. But like you said, I mean, it all started with Colby Allen from the Southern Miss Golden Eagles, just shoving, right? 4 shutout innings, 5 Ks, 1 walk. I mean, he really just went up there and, I mean, dealt. It took care of business. I mean, it was such a good game. And we talked about, Southern Miss hosting Mississippi State, and then Troy going to visit Auburn. We talked about it last week or earlier this week, recapping about how I said one of them is going to lose. I thought it would be Troy beating out Auburn, but I knew someone was going to lose. And this is as good as it gets. I mean, Southern Miss and Mississippi State, that's one of the best midweeks you're going to get from an in-state rivalry. That's not Mississippi State, Ole Miss.
And that's another one, Harrison. You mentioned the hatred between like a Kennesaw and Georgia.
Yeah.
And I talked to some buddies that are from the state of Mississippi, and Southern Miss hates Ole Miss and Mississippi State. So for them, like, and I'm not saying obviously Mississippi State went in that game wanting to win, but that game, in Hattiesburg, Southern Miss was fired up. Like you said, it gets jumping there, and they played with their hair on fire and got the big midweek win. It doesn't, and I want to say this: we say midweeks matter. They do. I'm not going to sit here and press the panic button because Mississippi State lost one midweek game. But, yeah, I mean, humbling experience in Hattiesburg for sure. The Bats were about as quiet as it gets, man. So they'll look to bounce back. It was, again, pitchers duel, low-scoring game. State just couldn't get anything going offensively. You tip your cap to the Southern Miss pitchers. And, again, it's a good program. This isn't just some this isn't slapdick State. This is a really, really good mid-major, like you mentioned. So, really proud history and tradition.
And that's a big win for RPI-wise for Southern Miss, too, down the road.
Yeah, no, very, very big win for the Golden Eagles for sure. You mentioned that game, Haberson, Auburn and Troy. Troy, top 25 team, came into Auburn. Looked like they were about to pull the upset. Ike Irish said, no, sir. No, sir. Gets the walk-off hit. Auburn finds a way to beat the Troy Trojans. This was one of the fun, if not the most fun midweek game that we had on the slate, Haberson. You turn to your experienced guys in that moment. I'm sure you saw the end of the game, though. Auburn gets the leadoff knock. It essentially goes under the glove of the Troy outfielder, and he gets all the way to third to lead off. So you're behind the 8 ball. They intentionally walked 2 guys in a row. It's bases loaded, nobody out. It was, and
you got to face the best hitter in Auburn's
right.
lineup.
And which I will say, and I talked to somebody, it's like, I mean, I get you want to create the force in any bag, but you're loading the bases with nobody out to face the best hitter in the lineup. Like, yeah. I just. Maybe Skylar Meade will look back and make an adjustment the next time. But they were in
how Ike Irish went 1 for 11 in opening week. I mean, he's 2 for 4 here, obviously after that. But like, I still don't want to face the 3-hole hitter or the 4-hole hitter in the lineup. I mean, I don't understand. I get you want to have a force, but I just it's a tough spot.
I mean, here's the thing. Here's the solution, Harrison. Don't let the ball go under your glove. That's the real solution. Don't give him a triple when it should have been a single. Yeah. So, anyways, though,
the thing for me that also concerns me is just it continues Auburn's pitching. I talked about it recapping opening weekend. Just none of the starters went more than 4 innings. The struggles we've kind of seen, the lack of dominance of any capacity, and then you have Carson Myers who struggles as well. Didn't even get a second inning. 7 hits, 5 earned, 1 walk, 1 strikeout. I mean, that is just starting to build more worry for me. I know it's a midweek, but this is a ranked midweek game against a top 25 Troy. That another in-state rivalry, and Troy wants to go in there and beat them. I don't care if they're ranked or not, but just that worry continues to grow for me with Auburn on the pitching side, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, you need to lengthen your starters. You need that pitching depth. I mean, this is why midweeks matter, because you're building pitching depth. You get in a tournament play, you're going to need those 4th starters. You're going to need maybe those guys who've been pitching on Tuesdays and Wednesdays to be in your bullpen. So, if they're not getting the job done, which is, again, this is what this is for. First few weeks of non-conference, we're figuring out who the best guys are. But yeah, to your point, I think it's something to pay attention to when it comes to Auburn. The other thing before we move off the midweek, get into the weekend, Harrison, that's noteworthy. Hey, how about the Florida Gators winning a midweek game? How about it? How about Florida won a midweek game? That's noteworthy. After last year, and they were down. I'm sure you saw. They were down early. We were like, it was 2-0 after the first inning, and you're just like, oh my gosh, like this. Here we go again. Which it was a weird first inning. Billy Barlow gives up 2 runs without surrendering a hit. He hit the first batter of the game on the first pitch of the game. He settled in, pitched pretty well. Offense came alive. Brody Donay is on pace to hit like 60 home runs this year. Luke Heyman, the others, they had a big night. So, yeah, Florida is a really, really good baseball team. I've talked about them a lot. I'm super excited about them. But yeah, them winning a midweek game is notable. They got some good work in their freshman Aiden King that we talked about, Harrison. He came in relief in that game. Pitch looked really good. So, yeah, they're excited, and congrats. Again, the Gators. Winning a midweek is notable after last season. So hopefully the midweek woes are gone for good. Maybe not. We'll see. All right, Harrison, let's get into the weekend. We got a jam-packed weekend here, a lot to get into. We're still working our way through these tournaments, which is essentially going to be the case pretty much all of non-conference play, if not at least to the end of this month. So we're going to start with the tournaments. We got a few to dive into. Hey, Harrison, let's start with the one that we're going to be at this weekend, the Jacksonville College Baseball Classic. Really excited to get down to Jacksonville, take it all in. The field is going to be, and this, by the way, being played at the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp Stadium, one of the coolest mascots in all of minor league baseball, the Jumbo Shrimp. The field, though, of course, the reason we're going, the Alabama Crimson Tide, Rob Vaughn's club, along with Ohio State, who, Harrison, quiz for you. Can you name the head coach? Who was the guy from Campbell that went to Ohio State? What was his name?
It's the coach from Campbell, but I can't remember his name.
Justin something, I think. Justin something. Look that up in the meantime. So Ohio State with the first-year head coach, Coastal Carolina, very proud program, and then NC State.
Justin Hare.
That's it. Justin. I knew it was something like rabbit. As silly as that sounds, it was like just something with a rabbit. Hare, though. Hare. Anyways, though, Bama, Ohio State, Coastal, NC State. Very random field, but what should make for a really fun tournament. On Friday, you've got Alabama and Coastal at 6 p.m. Eastern. Saturday, you've got Alabama, NC State, 4 p.m. Eastern. Little SEC, ACC duel. I know our friend Micah just means less will be paying close attention. And then Sunday, Alabama and Ohio State, 11 a.m. Eastern to cap it off. Obviously, I only mentioned the SEC games because those are the ones we care the most about. So anyways, Harrison, Alabama, team kind of been flying under the radar. They are undefeated at this point. Thoughts on the field, thoughts on the tournament, thoughts, and your just overall outlook for Bama in this tournament.
Yeah, Chris. I mean, I think it's headlined obviously by, I think, the best player in this tournament, let alone one of the best in the SEC and country, is Justin LeBron for Alabama. I mean, you're talking about he's batting 500, Chris, with 10 RBIs and 2 home runs already. I mean, he's obviously more undersized than a lot of other elite hitters in this conference and in the nation, but the kid can ball, Chris. He's such a utility guy that has so many different tools in his bag that he's putting on full display to start the season and expect to do it the rest of the season, Chris.
Yeah, he's been fantastic. I cannot wait to get a firsthand look at him. I actually saw him a few weeks ago when we went to Tuscaloosa for the basketball game. Stopped by, saw a scrimmage, saw him in that. But he's doing it all right now, man. He's doing it swinging the stick. He had a big defensive highlight on Wednesday night in their midweek game. He's been fantastic. I'm excited to get a look at the pitching here. So you take a look at some of their guys.
He's about to go there.
Yeah, about to go there. I mean, it's Alabama, I feel like recently has been known for elite starting pitching. Last year they were supposed to have one of the best rotations in the SEC. It didn't quite work out that way, but I think this is an opportunity, a big opportunity to put the pitching on display, right? Opening weekend, you faced Bradley. You faced kind of the Alabama A&Ms of the world in the midweek. You're going to get tested a little bit on the bump. Again, NC State, you could argue, I think, that let's call it for what it is. NC State, at least preseason expectation-wise, is the best team in this tournament. You get them on Saturday, opportunity to make a big statement for the Crimson Tide on the bump specifically.
Yeah, Chris, and that's one thing I'm looking forward to as well as seeing is what does the pitching for Alabama do? I mean, I talked preseason about how Alabama and Auburn are very similar teams in my mind of just kind of where they are in the SEC, the talent they have and kind of expectations. They still are because they both give me a lot of pitching concerns on the mound. I mean, Alabama doesn't have a starter that's gone more than 3 innings this year, and they've played 4 games. Mm-hmm. I mean, they played opening weekend, and they don't have a pitcher that's gone more than 3 innings as a starter. I mean, that's such a word for me because it puts a lot of stress, like you said, on the bullpen, not only the whole series, but leading up to SEC play and then all throughout SEC play as well. And that's just kind of what Auburn's been doing too. But it's also, the bat side of it's headlined by 1 or 2 guys for Alabama, just like Auburn is. I mean, it's interesting because it's Justin LeBron and then Brendan Norton. I mean, Norton's hit 467. I mean, he's not on the RBI machine that Justin LeBron has been. I mean, Bryce Fowler has been the RBI leader for Alabama. So it's 2 or 3 guys, but it's just you're not going to successfully, go deep in the SEC, let alone the postseason, without a strong pitching staff. And Alabama hasn't shown me that yet, Chris, this season. But this is a good opportunity that they can. I don't know if they will. I mean, we talked about predictions. My prediction for Alabama, 1-2 this weekend. 1-2.
Okay, so probably a loss to NC State and either a loss to Coastal or Ohio State.
I say if put me on a spot, I say lose to Coastal in a high-scoring game, lose to NC State, and then beat Ohio State pretty handily.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't think Coastal's great this year, Harrison, but they're such a proud program. Like, Coastal's going to show. They're very scrappy. They're going to show up fired up this first year, obviously past first year without Gary Gilmore, their legendary head coach. We saw them last year in the regionals, obviously, in Clemson. They're going to be fired up, of course. Ohio State, again, has got a great coach in Justin Harris. We talked about this last week with the tournaments. You're going to find out the warts of your ball club really quickly. So I know Rob Vaughn and company, they're going to take a lot of value out of this weekend. I'm going to give Bama 2-1. I think that I could see them pulling the upset against NC State, maybe losing one of the others. I'm going to say they do that. I'm going to say they beat NC State. They find a way to beat NC State, but they're going to lose one of the other two. They're going to split those two games, but I think they're going to be fired up to take on the Wolfpack. And
watch out for that 11 o'clock game in the morning on Sunday.
Yeah. It's to get the day going, that'll be a fun one. And then you got Coastal and State in the afternoon. But yeah, to your point, man, the starters, and I think as we go through non-conference play, you're going to see these staffs lengthen their guys each and every single weekend, get them, but you're going to have to, you need to, right? Like, we need to see a couple of these Bama starters go, 5, 6, maybe 7 innings and set up your bullpen. And this, it's interesting, Harrison, this kind of gives you sort of a regional or maybe a super regional feel a little bit, like being at a site like this was like, I could see a regional put together with Bama, Coastal, NC State. Maybe Ohio State would be the odd man out, but this kind of gives me like a regional field feel, if you will. So a little bit, not all the way, but a little bit. But again, excited to get a look at Bama. I agree with you. I do think Bama and Auburn are very similar. They'd hate to hear that, but I do think those teams very similar. We're going to get an early idea, though. Again, we talked about Harrison a lot. Middle of the pack teams, lower third teams that can overachieve.
Yeah,
it's early, but this would be a good way to kind of, make a statement. This would be a good way to make a statement if you're Rob Vaughn's club. So
yeah, and this next college baseball series, tournament that we're going to talk about gives me more regional vibes. I think, like you said, this one because it's Arkansas, Kansas State, TCU, and Michigan.
Yeah, the Amegy Bank College Baseball Series. We will go there, Harrison, to your point. Like you mentioned, Arkansas, K-State, Michigan, TCU. The schedule for this one will focus on the Hogs specifically. Friday, Arkansas plays Kansas State, 8 p.m. Eastern. Saturday, it's Arkansas, TCU at 7 p.m. Eastern. And Sunday, Arkansas and Michigan, a really upstart Michigan squad that beat Virginia, you might recall, on opening day, 11 a.m. Eastern. Harrison, the story and what I'm excited to watch here, because we will be following along this one for sure. It's the Arkansas pitching staff. Now, from a standpoint of what I want to see, can it make strides? Is the lineup? But dude, Arkansas is just must-see TV to watch their pitchers work, man. I mean, it starts with Gabe Gackle on Friday. Like they're going to attack hitters all weekend. It's. I feel confident in saying, like, I don't know everything about all three of these lineups they're going to face, but I know what Arkansas is going to bring on the bump, and they're going to bring straight hell to all three of these opponents. Yeah,
Chris, exactly. When you have a guy like Gabe Gackle and then Zach Root as a Friday, Saturday 1-2 punch, I mean, if you're an Arkansas fan, when you're playing defense, you're sitting back like this, watching, just enjoying, a good pitching performance, good pitching outing show. And when you're on offense, you're like this on the edge of your seat, Chris. I mean, because you're like, I don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to struggle hitting. And we talked about it. Their first hit of the season was a bunt in the 5th inning on opening weekend on Friday. I mean, same thing. Concerns for me, Arkansas's hitting. Where are they going to be this season? They have to be middle of the pack. They have to. There's no excuse, I don't think, anymore that they can be bottom quarter of the SEC in hitting. As talented as a program as Arkansas is consistently, and as elite of a recruiter as that staff is head by Dave Van Horn, I just don't think there's an excuse anymore. And this is going to be a really good taste of, like I said, kind of a regional vibe and like playing some quality opponents. Talk about, you said Michigan upsetting Virginia, top 5 team opening weekend, and a territory United States in Puerto Rico. Got that one right this time. And it's going to be, I think it's going to be really, all three are going to be tight games, Chris. I have them going 2-1.
Yeah, and I'm going to say this too, to be fair to the Hog fans, because we got some Hogs out there. I've seen the comments that, I don't know, they think maybe we're a little bit nitpicky with our nitpicky with Arkansas because I think Arkansas can win the national championship. They get certain things tied up and figure out. The Hogs, after the opening day, they ruled Washington State a couple times. They took care of the business. I want to make sure we give credit to that because, again, I don't want to just think we're only focusing on what happened on opening day. I understand Arkansas had a really successful opening weekend. I'm excited to continue to watch Brent Iredale in the offense. I think he could be kind of one of the leaders of the offensive side. Obviously, had the walk-off on opening day and had a really good weekend. And, Kendall Diggs is obviously somebody we're continuing to keep an eye on. And
a full season, a healthy Kendall Diggs, we're hoping.
Yeah, and Aloy swung it well, I thought, opening weekend too. But Arkansas is going to be a team led by its pitching. But again, it's going to be a good test for the Hogs. And these are, I think especially when you look at what Michigan's done, there's a lot of high hopes for what TCU can be this season. Kansas State is a really, it's a wide open Big 12. They're kind of one of those teams that's kind of a dangerous team, if you will. I wouldn't call them elite, but just a dangerous club. So, and it's like we saw Harrison last weekend in tournament play. I mean, it's unpredictable. At this early in the season, it's very, very unpredictable. So good opportunity for the Hogs. You expect the pitching to show up. Harrison, I know you agree with me, so I'll just say I think, actually, I'm going to go even one better. I think Arkansas goes 3-0. I think Arkansas goes 3-0. I'm going to call my shot. Hogs go 3-0. I just think the pitching is going to be that good. And also, too, this game is played in Globe Life. A little bit warmer temps in a dome. I think it's going to help the bats a little bit.
You sure they were out playing in a dome?
They were out. Listen, they were out there in the Arkansas cold on opening weekend. Give credit where credit's due. Not conditions conducive to scoring a lot of runs and hitting a lot. I think Arkansas is going to take advantage of being in the dome. I was there last weekend. Very comfortable. You don't need a jacket in there. It's very, very nice. I think Arkansas is going to hit a little bit better than we expect. And I think the pitching is going to do their thing. 3-0 for the Hogs. I'm going to go 3-0 for the Hogs.
I'm sticking 2-1.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. And that's fair. It's a good field. It's
It's
very solid
conference play. It's really early in the season. I mean, a lot of people are finding out roles. Obviously you could say that more on the pitching staff, but I think on the hitting side as well, especially for a team like Arkansas, they just got to prove it to me more. They have to.
And that's fair. Again, the field is really good. Who would be the one you'd say be most likely they would lose to, Harrison, of K-State, TCU, Michigan?
I'd say at this point, Michigan. I mean, it's 11 a.m. game on a Sunday, which is odd, but the way Michigan showed that they can play against a team like UVA, an Omaha club in UVA, I mean, really impressive there. Can they do it again? And I think they have the talent to do so. It's just going out there and proving it. And depends on how much pitching, gets used by Michigan, I think, leading up into that Sunday morning game.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch the Hogs go at it. Let's go to Harrison, the next tournament, the Karbach Round Rock Classic. I may be saying that wrong. Karbach Round Rock. Either way, it's the Round Rock Classic. The field in this one, the Oklahoma Sooners from the SEC. How about the rest of the field, Harrison? Oregon State, Virginia, and Minnesota. So Oregon State, Virginia, the notables, obviously, you get a little bit more Big Ten flavor with Minnesota in there. The schedule looks like this for the Sooners. On Friday, Oklahoma takes on Minnesota at 1 p.m. Eastern. This game has been bumped up, by the way, because of weather, of course. On Saturday, Sooners take on Oregon State, 5 p.m. Eastern. And on Sunday, Oklahoma takes on the Virginia Cavaliers, 5 p.m. Eastern. Harrison, quick question. We know about the Witherspoon twins. Is there any way that Oklahoma would consider pitching off? I mean, I don't know a ton about Minnesota.
I was going to bring that up as well.
Would you not want to save those guys for – I mean, Oregon State and Virginia are national title contenders. With respect to the Gophers, I don't think they are. Again, I'm not going to pretend like I know tons about Minnesota baseball, but, yeah, I mean, to your point, I think saving the Witherspoon twins might be good because, again, you're going to be facing two of the best teams probably in college baseball on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, Chris, I think that's I'm glad you thought of that too, because I think they should do that. I'm not sure if Skip Johnson and company will, but you got to think, Chris, like I said earlier, win against Oregon State and win against Virginia goes a long way RPI-wise.
Even if you get one of those, just getting one of those.
Yeah, but give your best chance to win, at least one, if not two. And I think if you're Oklahoma and you can't beat Minnesota with the rest of your bullpen and a fresh bullpen, and let me say a long relief kind of start, like not even an opener, but like a long relief, kind of like a midweek, if you treat it that way. If you can't beat Minnesota, I don't know how you expect to compete in the SEC.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. So
But
I think
I'm
it's
really
going to be
interested to see, and I
it's going to
hope
be
they do
interesting to
it.
see what Skip Johnson does. It is going to be interesting.
Chris, I
'Cause
hope they pitch off and pitch the Witherspoon twins, Saturday against Oregon State and Sunday against Virginia. Because
selfishly, I just want to see it. Like, let's go best on
I want to
best.
see them go against those elite lineups, especially Virginia's lineup, and just the depth that they have, the power they have 1 through 9.
Isn't it Kyron's the number one, right?
Yeah, Kyron is the number one.
Would you save him to Sunday?
No, I think throwing him off too much.
You go him Saturday. You just
I think
change it
Malachi is good enough to throw on Sunday.
Okay.
Against Virginia, I think Malachi was the better of the twins going into their collegiate time at Oklahoma, and then Kyson just made a bigger jump. So
yeah,
don't throw it off too much. That's a little too much for me.
And then for the lineup, Harrison, you look at guys like Easton Carmichael, who's hitting 545 right now. Again, they've only played 3 games. They swept Lehigh. Oklahoma had no problem. So we're going to learn a lot more about the Sooners. Bigger opportunity this weekend.
Especially against Virginia's pitching staff.
Yeah. That'll be a really good test, which, again, Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern. So a little bit later in the day. We'll get to watch. It's been great, by the way, Harrison, the slate just being like all day long. It seems like we got some really good baseball on. But Easton Carmichael, really excited to see him. Jackson Willits is obviously one of the guys that leads the lineup. So I've got Oklahoma, Harrison. Right now, I got to say I've got them going 1-2. I just – there's too much unknown for me. I don't know if they're going to pitch off. If they pitch off, then maybe. But, we're talking – I mean, Oklahoma could be a really nice middle-of-the-pack team in the SEC this year. And who knows? They could get hot in the postseason, make a run. We've seen them do it before. But, right now, what I know about OU, are they ready to go toe-to-toe with Oregon State and Virginia? I think they beat Minnesota. I like you said, if they don't beat Minnesota, especially if they don't pitch off, we got a problem. We probably have a problem. Oregon State and Virginia, though, I still, and listen, Michigan beat Virginia, so it's doable, but right now, I think those two are on a different level. I just think those two are on a different level.
Yeah, and like you said, I have them going 1-2 as well. I think if you can't, I think hopefully they pitch off, but if not, you should still be able to beat Minnesota offensively as well. I think just because it's also, I don't want to say a home game, but it's more of a home game for Oklahoma than any other team in this field. But I think if they are to beat one of Oregon State or Virginia, it's Oregon State. I just think Virginia's too deep on both sides of the ball, and I have them going 1-2 as well, Chris.
I think to take it a step further, Harrison, I know they just lost to Michigan, but heck, you and I was asked this question the other day, and I repeated the answer, but you and I in the preseason talked about who's the team outside of the SEC that could kind of stop the SEC from winning the national title. UVA's loaded, dude. They are just – and it's a great program. And, heck, they might even be more focused and fired up after losing to Michigan last week the way they did. And that was it was an opening day game. They got walked off. Weird things can happen on opening day. But, again, another opportunity for Oklahoma, no doubt. Opportunity for Oklahoma, but I got to go with 1-2. I think Oregon State, Virginia, again, just on a different level.
Yeah, because, that's a regional, tap talent right there, at least 2 of the 3 teams.
Yeah, exactly. Harrison, let's go to a tournament that is flying very under the radar. How about the Andre Dawson Classic down in the state of Florida as well? The field is this. So it's the Missouri Tigers, and it is 7 HBCUs. So it is Mizzou, and then you've got Florida A&M, Alabama State, Alabama A&M, Grambling State, Jackson State, Prairie View A&M, and Southern. The schedule for Mizzou looks like this. Friday, they take on Florida A&M at 8 p.m. Eastern. Saturday, Alabama State at 3 p.m. Eastern. And then Sunday, they play Southern, Harrison, at 9 a.m. Eastern.
I'm just going to tell you right now, I won't be watching that.
That's straight travel ball vibes.
I will be at church. I won't be watching that one.
that is straight travel ball vibes. Are they going to give them
you get the worst seat in the bracket playing at 9 a.m. on a Sunday.
Are they going to give them a Capri Sun and a Lunchable after the game? That's what that reminds me of. Anyways, Carrick Jackson squad. Give Carrick Jackson credit for just finding a tournament for his team. Listen, it's still freezing cold in Como, so they get to go down to Florida and play. Harrison, I think Mizzou goes 3-0. Again, it's cool that they're in this tournament and they're in a tournament, but
I think they need to go 3-0, and I haven't.
If we're talking about Mizzou losing a game, I think we've really got some problems. I know Mizzou
they showed us against UConn. There's no reason.
Yeah, I mean, they did beat UConn. They did beat UConn, went 1-2 on the opening weekend, but beat UConn. So the competition is going to be much more manageable this weekend. Again, maybe one of these HBCUs has a dude on the bump, maybe, but like realistically, man, you should go 3-0. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, guys, we're going to get in the rest of the weekend slate. Again, a lot of non-conference play, but a ton to discuss. Before we do, I want to tell you about our friends over, of course, at FanDuel, because we are brought to you once again by FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just beginning on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because FanDuel is your home for NBA live betting. So even if you miss the first few minutes of the game or you want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can make your picks from the first whistle into the final buzzer. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout, however you want to play. Now is the perfect time to join. New FanDuel customers get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today. That's FanDuel.com/SECU for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 and up and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 and up and present in D.C. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat. In Connecticut, or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support. In Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. And once again, our friends at FanDuel, the official partners of the SEC Unfiltered Tour all throughout 2025. And, of course, where it will take us this weekend, Jacksonville, Florida, for the Jacksonville College Baseball Classic, where we'll watch the Alabama Crimson Tide and the rest of the field do battle. But again, let's talk about, Harrison, the rest of the weekend slate. It's about as uneventful as the first weekend. Let's call it for what it is. There's a lot of just kind of smaller non-con. I've got to highlight this, Harrison, for some unknown reason. Kentucky again is going on the road to Belmont. And this is again in Nashville, Tennessee, because Belmont's in Nashville. So they're in Nashville again. Maybe they'll actually be able to get 3 games in this time. Again, there's a lot of other series, though. I'm going to read these off really quickly, Harrison. We can just kind of talk about what sparks our interest. But Georgia takes on UIC, South Carolina, Milwaukee, Tennessee, Samford, Ole Miss, Eastern Kentucky, Mississippi State, Missouri State, LSU, Omaha, Vandy, St. Mary's, Texas, Dartmouth, Florida, Dayton, Texas A&M, Cal Poly, and Auburn and Wright State. Do any of those series do anything for you? I'll start with this, Harrison. I'll say this. Interesting weekend, in my opinion, from the standpoint of it's kind of your last get-right weekend before the competition really ramps up. And I'm talking about Florida and South Carolina, because both of them next weekend have rivalry series on deck.
Yeah.
And like, as big as the tournaments are, they're great. They're awesome. They're cool. You get to test yourself. You know, again, I was there at Globe Life this past weekend, Harrison. It's cool. But I can tell you, I've been to a South Carolina Clemson game. Like, the intensity that both of those teams are going to get, it's times 1,000 what I felt at that tournament. So if you're Florida, if you're South Carolina, again, Florida's got Miami next weekend. South Carolina has Clemson in that annual series. It's your last weekend to kind of tie up some loose ends and, you know, figure some things out. So big weekend for those two. I'll be excited to kind of pay attention. Florida's obviously been red hot, swinging the stick. I talked a lot about Liam Peterson over the past week, and you know, Clemente and Capalla. They feel really good about where they're at, really in all phases at this point. Just, I think, more so just the lineup consistency, continuing to tinker with the starting 9. South Carolina is undefeated, Harrison, but it hasn't been like super flashy. To give them credit, they beat Queens on Wednesday night. I think the score was 6-2. Dude, it was a miserable night for baseball. It was 40 misting. There couldn't have been 10 people in the stadium watching the game. So give them credit, but they haven't really had like that big offensive explosion. So I think it would be good for South Carolina if the offense can kind of aliven and waken up. And Paul Maneri also saying, I don't think Eli Jersenbeck's going to be back this weekend either. So, you know, is there any chance he's ready for Clemson? Probably, maybe not, probably not. I don't know. Those two, though, are what jump out to me just because of what lies ahead for them.
Yeah, Chris, and like talk about South Carolina briefly. Obviously, Ethan Petrie, but it really looks like Nathan Hall has really taken a step up for the Gamecocks. The junior center fielder. I mean, he's leading the team in batting average for those who qualify. He's
I think
got
he went 4 for 5 in that game
he's
against
got
Queens.
over a 1200 OPS, and he's got, I mean, just multiple extra base hits, 5 RBIs. He leads the team with RBIs as well. But like we said, the pitching has been surprisingly really good. The starters of Matthew Becker, James McCoy, and Dylan Eskew all had great outings, all with 5 innings, which I think was kind of what they were looking for is 5 solid innings, ramping up leading into the season. All had 9 strikeouts, combined 1 walk. I mean, I want to see them do that again this weekend, and I think that they should be able to do that. And, roll into this Clemson series, a very important series and a heated rivalry, playing very, very good baseball.
Harrison, outside of that, anything else come to mind? Hey, I guess, how does Tennessee follow up scoring 29 runs? We didn't mention that, by the way, when we were talking the midweek. Shame on us. Harrison, Tennessee scored 29 runs in a baseball game. I don't know what point Tony V had to prove, but
powerful their offense is up and down. But
I think UNC Asheville also had like 20 walks, which is pretty nuts.
Yeah,
but
we saw Dalton Bargo had 2 home runs, one of them a grand slam in the first inning alone.
Yeah, he had 2 homers, 5 RBI in 1 inning.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
But
anyways, I'll let you take it away. Just thoughts on the slate.
Yeah. Other than that, I think you have to keep an eye out. Keep one eye on another TV on Dayton, Florida, just because of Florida and how they treat midweeks and kind of just how they end up playing midweeks. It feels like, but other than that, Chris, Wright State. I know they're 2-0. They're playing the Horizon League, but they're a very good mid-major program as well.
Yeah.
And the concerns I have around Auburn, I just think that Wright State's going to come in. They're traditionally, they want to come swing the bat and swing it loud, swing it often, make a lot of contact. But I think that's probably the series that I'm most concerned about for an SEC team is Auburn hosting Wright State, Chris.
The other one I'll say I'm excited about, Harrison, is Texas and Dartmouth, just because this will officially be Jim Schlossnagel's home opener because they did not get their midweek. They were in the tournament the opening weekend. So,
and Dartmouth's first game of the season.
You're correct. So, yeah, it'll be Schloss's. It'll be electric in Austin. Hopefully, again, weather cooperates for all these series. I'll say, too, I'm excited to continue to watch. Well, LSU's a fun watch no matter what. I mean, I was watching them in the midweek, man. They're just, God, they are so just loaded. It just seems like everybody in that lineup's capable of hurting you. They got guys coming out of the bullpen just 97, 97, 98. It's just like, good Lord. Ole Miss, can they continue to build? Had the walk-off. Our buddy Udemark, who hit the 7,000-foot homer in Arlington, he has the walk-off to kind of save the day against Arkansas State. I guess want to continue to just kind of monitor the pitching staff of Mississippi State, or they continue to be dominant. I'm trying to find things, obviously. I think I will be surprised if anybody in the SEC loses a series that's not playing in the tournament. So it's really about kind of trying to nitpick. Also, I will tell you this, Harrison. I think if he continues to build off what he did in the Desert Invitational, RJ Austin could become a really fun story. He was
very talented player.
He was fantastic in that Desert Invitational, and people have talked about. He's kind of ready to break out. He's ready to break out. So
super toolsy guy. Yeah, I was thinking that as well. Just Vanderbilt kind of taking what they did in the Desert Invitational out in Arizona and running with it. Just keep the offense, keep the chains, keep the bats moving. Keep the guys on base, get them over, get them in. Hopefully they continue that. I mean, St. Mary's is 4-1. They're in the West Coast Conference, which isn't a bad conference for a mid-major, but. Yeah, I mean, and I think the last thing I'm looking forward to, Chris, is just the crowds and how they compare to opening weekend. I mean, we had record-breaking crowds on opening weekend. I know, especially for Texas A&M. But I just think people are excited for baseball being back. Whether it's going to be, I think it'll play a little bit of a factor, but I think people are excited to get to the ballpark and watch some SEC baseball, Chris, just like us all weekend long.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Weather,
especially Friday night when we're back on Friday Night Spikes, and I will make my debut.
Yes, Friday Night Spikes will be electric. I will say before we're going to plug that. Yeah, just getting to watch A&M. I mean, I don't know that Cal Poly is going to give much of a challenge, but, let's see if Jace Lavalette can hit 3 more bombs this weekend. Just, he's chasing records there in College Station. He's chasing, heck, man, Jace Lavalette could put together the best season in A&M history, arguably. So, and I know it's early to say that, but he's just capable of doing that. So, a lot of fun stories, a lot of fun players. Again, we expect the SEC, obviously, to have a big weekend. Oh, final thing too, Georgia. What does Brian Curley do for an encore? Will he do the tongue again? I feel like I have to tune in now when he's pitching.
And where does Wes Johnson do for the game? Because I guess is he ejected for today's game? Because
he got tossed.
He's watching it like Eric Backage from the hotel room.
I mean, let me think. He got tossed on Tuesday. They didn't play Wednesday.
Yep.
So he's out. I guess, is he suspended 2 games?
No, just one.
Just one. Is it one? Okay.
Yeah.
Because Backage had 2. But was it because it was a postseason game?
I didn't realize this was 2. That's interesting.
Backage was out for his first game wasn't until Sunday when Clemson got killed. That was the ironic part.
Interesting.
Anyways, we'll see. We'll see. Wes Johnson, at minimum Friday, will be enjoying the game from a very different vantage point. If you want to enjoy Friday with us, though, to your point, Harrison, really good stuff. Again, we appreciate y'all tuning in to the Windup. Make sure you tune in tomorrow night. The debut of Friday Night Spikes last Friday night was a hit. It was awesome. It was fantastic. It was electric. Can't say thank you enough, man. I was literally laid up on the couch, chilling in Arlington, talking with you all, taking your questions, your comments, and I was solo. That won't be the case this Friday. My friend Harrison Fant, our buddy Jake McKeever, they're going to join me as well. We're going to have a fun time chopping it up, shooting the shit, hanging out with you guys, taking questions. Just 3 guys and our audience talking ball, man. It's going to be a lot of fun reacting to everything happening on Friday night. We'll probably, I don't know, Harrison, what you say, probably 10 p.m. Eastern, something like that. As the action is kind of coming to a close, there may be like 1 or 2 games on still, just kind of depending. But around that time, Friday night, you can bank on us being live. We will be there, Facebook, and YouTube as well, of course. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to have you on that, Harrison. Excited to have Jake on as well, and appreciate your hard work and what you've been doing. So, we'll go ahead and put we'll go ahead and put a pin in it, man. Any final words going in the second weekend? It's fun. I tell you this, Harrison, it's fun. These tournaments are great. They are. I'm excited for them. But this is like after this weekend, it's slowly picking up, slowly ramping up a little bit. So it's fun stuff. Guys, again, appreciate you all tuning in. Again, this is the Windup, SEC Unfiltered bi-weekly college baseball show. We can't say thank you enough, guys. We enjoy doing this, and we just hope and I pray that you enjoy tuning in as much as we enjoy talking college baseball. So again, as always, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast, where you get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms, as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. For my co-host and colleague, Harrison Fant, I'm Chris Phillips. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in, and we will catch you on Friday Night Spikes.
Yes, sir.